Hello friends! We are going to break down a pose today. We're going to go through a couple variations of this pose and specifically emphasize how to do this pose to avoid injury. So we're going to do a standing forward fold, also a seated forward fold, because we're going to go through a couple variations. The hamstrings are one of the easiest muscle groups in the body to overstretch. So with that awareness, here are a couple different ways that you can approach a forward fold, hopefully experience a really lovely stretch down the backs of the legs, maybe into the glutes, the hips, and into the low back, but in a way that is gentle and not forceful, looking to avoid that overextension, that kind of unfortunately common injury within a yoga practice. So I'm going to start by showing you a couple seated variations. Seated, I do recommend for this being seated in something that's really stable, so maybe not the edge of your bed or couch, but something a little bit more like a chair. And then to take one leg forward at a time. You're welcome to scoot your sit bones towards the edge of your chair or seat. And we also are going to keep the knee a little bit bent, so instead of letting the back of the knee fall towards the ground, we're going to keep a little bend in the knee. You're welcome to flex your foot or to relax the foot here. Whichever you choose though, just double check that your toes are pointed upward. So we're not rolling out, we're not rolling in. Depending on our build, depending often on our hips or even past ankle injuries, that might adjust kind of where the big toes point. We want to make sure they're pointed upward, whether or not the foot is flexed or relaxed. And then hinging at the hips, we'll keep a really tall, long spine. It might feel like you're lifting your ribs up off of the hips and then folding forward. Sometimes it also helps to think about the tallest point on the head and to think about that point reaching out past your toes. So instead of it being this rounding where the point of the head would come towards the floor, it's this like leaning and lengthening forward. After taking a couple of breaths on one side, just make sure that you switch to the other side, taking about an equal number of breaths. So looking for balance between the sides of the body, double checking that all 5 toes are pointed towards the ceiling. You can also take a seated forward fold here with both legs long. Just know that it might require a little bit of balance. In this variation, I personally like to bring my hands towards either the sides of the chair. If you have a chair with arms, that can be helpful, or even the back of the chair, which can help ensure that the spine, again, is really long, so we're avoiding that like hunching, rounding feeling, kind of keeping the shoulders and hips kind of at one long line. So instead of a curved line between the two, one more straight line between the two. Feet can still be flexed or not. Knees a little bit bent, a little bit soft. If you prefer to practice a forward fold standing without a chair, know that you're still always welcome to have a chair nearby, especially if balance is something that is a little bit of a challenge for your body. So, similar setup. We're going to make sure that all 10 toes are pointed the same direction, so avoiding rolling out or rolling in. Keep a little bit of bend in the knees. I know I'm wearing loose pants, you can't really see, but it's like this tiny little bend. You can always bend your knees more if things are extra tight, especially in your glutes or low back. And for a forward fold, I always recommend moving slowly. So that way we can make sure that the spine still feels long as we go. Again, always feeling free to bring hands towards a chair or a wall for balance. And once you find that furthest point, like the body's not going to go any further without the back severely rounding, right? So the spine still feels long. Then you can relax the top part of the spine, the head, the neck, the shoulders a bit. When your body is ready to come out of this pose, continue to breathe deeply or slowly. If you tend to be dizzy as you lift back up, it may help to exhale as the head lifts up. I'm going to show you one more variation here that is a little less commonly used, but can still offer a really deep stretch. So if you're looking for like a little more intensity, but you do want to honor that straightness, that length in your spine, kind of that straight line between shoulders and hips, and avoid a rounding, you can do a forward fold where your back or your sit bones are towards the wall. So I'll demonstrate with the sit bones towards the wall. For this variation, I do tend to take the feet a little bit wider than the hips since we're going for a lot of depth here. We kind of want to make space between the hips for the upper body. Knees still a little bit soft. The wall helping balance or catch this pose. So we can lean back a little bit into the heels, lean back a little bit into the sit bones. Still move slowly. See how far your spine can go with lots of length. Maybe relaxing the head downward. Hands could always come to blocks or anything else that you have handy if the floor is like just out of reach today. And then a personal favorite of mine, you can also do this pose with your back against the wall. So again, taking the feet a little bit wider than the hips, making space for that hinging forward motion. Still moving slowly, knees soft. But if a forward fold is in your practice and you're looking for depth but wanting to find that depth again without this like hunching motion, then you can practice bringing your back towards the wall. I like to walk my feet in slowly. Ooh, and it's early in the morning for me, so this is probably as far as I'm gonna go. Back can lean into the wall, knees as bent as they need to be to keep your spine long. Still reaching through the top of the head. And again, whenever you're ready to come out of a forward fold, doing so slowly and gently, maybe exhaling as the head lifts. I hope that offers you a little bit of variation and lets you know what cues around your form may be beneficial for you to focus on, especially if you have a history, like me, of overstretching your hamstrings or just overstretching the body in general. Move slow, with breath, keep those knee joints soft, keep the spine long. Have fun.